are we? Happy Monday. Monday? Yes. 1st of February. Woohoo, new month. Hope we're all excited like I am. I am. Oh, I can see the chat. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Hope all is well. Same to you, Aoife. Are we having a nice start to the month? Anybody wake up with like a different mindset this morning? I was just saying on my stories a while ago, I just didn't sleep last night. I don't know what the story was. Oh, I'm being told connection is good. Thanks, Noel. So this week we are doing soft smoky eye. So we're going to take what we did last week, which was kind of like the intro, we chatted through skincare, and we're going to build on that now to create more of like a softer smoky eye. But the great thing is we get to do a look that is like, oh, can you not hear me? Chatting through my earphones. No. Can you hear me okay? My earphones are plugged in and now they're either like not working or you couldn't hear me. Sorry, I had my earphones in. Sure, Jesus. What I was saying was, new start, new month, which obviously hasn't started that great for me. So yes, we're going to do a soft smoky eye. So the good news is it's like one of the most popular requested looks. At a time where everyone's having their makeup done, it's definitely one of the most requested. What you get in the shop, what we get for bridesmaids, for brides, etc. And you can make it whatever style you want. Like you can choose different colors. We're going to focus on neutral browns today, given that they are the most popular. The sad news is that we're going to be looking fabulous for our living room or our walk around the block. But that is just life. But there's no underestimating how much makeup or skincare or a good sheet mask can help to make you feel that little bit better at night. So that's what we're going to do today. For those of you who have sent in your practice from week 1, well done. And you'll get that feedback this week. And it's great to kind of stay on track of it. Don't worry if you're panicking and you haven't done it. It is in your own time. But we just recommend that you try and keep up with it as much as you can, just so that you're in the zone. But everyone is different. We all have different commitments. I'm sure lots of us are busy homeschooling. So don't worry. We totally get it. Does anybody have any questions from last week that you wanted me to run through before we kind of kick started into this week's? And obviously, we can, touch base on any of those questions as we go along. But just in case, I'm just going to pull my hair back. And while I see if there's any questions, I'm going to go ahead with some hydration serum. This is the hyaluronic acid. God, my nails are shocking. I have TV in the morning and I don't know what to do with them. Awful. Anybody else pick their nails? It's actually awful. I do it subconsciously when I'm either stressed or bored. I'm probably both of those at the moment, which is why it's mega bad. So I'm going to apply the hydration serum all over. Cannot underestimate the benefit of hydration from a makeup perspective. Not only is your skin more supple, it holds makeup better. For anyone that ever complains about having like patchiness in their makeup, an awful lot of the time, it's nothing to do with the makeup, it's to do with your skin. So I would highly, highly recommend that whatever way you can get your hydration in, you do that. Be it your serum, your moisturizer, add it in with your beauty base. But the beauty of serums is they're kind of finer in consistency. So they're not as heavy under makeup as maybe like a thick kind of moisturizer that some of us might leave until nighttime. And I just have a lip balm on my lips because I'm not going to get to them until later. So I'm looking at the chat. I think we're all good questions wise, but do keep up the chats with me as we're going along, because that's what makes it feel like we're together, Okay, what am I going to start with? We are going to start with eyes. So we're going to start with eyebrows, which for some people is going to be bizarre because you're like, what? Why are you doing your eyes first? And it's going to feel really weird if you practice it this way, usually your face. But it does make sense, particularly for like more dramatic looks when you're maybe working with shadows that are darker and they might have a bit of fallout. And then if you don't clean up the fallout properly, you end up getting like a mucky under eye, which no one wants. So sometimes it's easier just to do your eyes first. And we're going to try that tonight. So first things first, I am going to do my brows. And like I said, we're going to use a different brow product each week. Aoife is saying, I have hydrate and hold on my desk while I'm working from home. Great to spray throughout the day. Highly recommend. I agree, Aoife. I have these in basically every corner of my life. It's our hydrate and hold. So the name comes from the fact that it hydrates the hyaluronic and holds a lemon extract. I'll give you my in the shower face. So give it a shake and spray all over. The reason why it's been so popular with masks is given that it has that lemon extract, which controls the skin oil. So that's why it holds your makeup. But it's really, really good if you're prone to blemishes with mask wearing, which a lot of us are. Laura already always starts with her eyes and brows first, so you're going to have no bother with this. Mairead is saying, I wear glasses, so I find it very hard to do my eyes. It's hard to see. Yeah, I can totally see how that would be challenging. I don't wear glasses, so this might be a really silly suggestion, but could you do it where, this is going to sound really strange, they kind of sit at the bridge of your nose so you can still see through it, but you're kind of looking in, and maybe hold your mirror kind of here so you're looking down into it, like so. I don't know if that would work. Let me know, Mairead, if that's just a silly tip or if it's useful. So I'm starting with a gel this evening for eyebrows. Next week, we're going to do pencil. So we're going to see a different product each week. So a gel or a pomade is like a thicker consistency. I really like them. Some people fear them a bit because they find them a little bit thick, which they are. You know, they can have a tendency to go on very heavy. So like with anything in makeup, particularly your brow products, you need to go easy on it. So ease up on the pressure. Don't try and crayon in the brow. It's not going to do you any favors. So I'm starting with my angle brush and I'm brushing my hair through first. Some of us will have particularly stubborn hair. Some of us will have kind of nice soft hair. Whatever it is, you need to make sure that you brush it through first. So much like we did with the shadow last week, I'm going to follow those kind of same steps. So I'm kind of scraping off the excess on the side of the jar. And I'm going to start right down at that first hair. So what I always say is the shape underneath your brow is essentially your natural shape. So it's what you kind of have yourself. You're just drawing a line to basically make it that little bit more obvious. So going back to when we said the color is so important, you cannot underestimate that. I am using shade 3 in Benefit. So as you can see, with my lovely natural blonde, not so natural, I'm not going to last that long at this stage, I have a darker brow. So what I don't want to do is put like a brunette colour in that and make it extra dark when it's already dark, and then it makes my face look harsh. But I also don't want to lose the colour either. So 3 for me is a nice kind of happy medium between not going darker than my natural colour, I'm now pushing that product up, but still having my brow visible. In terms of the actual Benefit colours, they go from like 1 to 6 with a few kind of half and quarter shades in between. I generally find shade 2 is great if you are, say, grey, a very light blonde, perhaps you don't like your brows to be too strong. I like 3 and 3.5 if you're like myself or a light brunette, and I like 4 if you're a brunette. Again, to reiterate, I wouldn't put black into an eyebrow if you have black hair. I think it can look a little bit harsh. So a dark brown is probably going to be a little bit softer. So I've started down that first hair. I've then pushed that product through. Whenever you start to fill up here, up around the arch, you don't have to, things start to get a little bit thicker and a little bit bigger. So as you can see, that brow looks a bit wider. And one of the biggest things to remember, regardless of your product, is that you always brush through after. Particularly up in this area, if you have decided to go a little bit thicker and bigger, you don't want it to look like a sketched show basically, or a stencil that hasn't been filled in yet. You want to make sure it all looks very natural and you're just kind of emphasizing the hair that's already there. This is my favorite child. This is the ugly sister of a brow. So they are twins. No, they are sisters, not twins. So you will always have something you have to do differently. So again, have you figured out which one is our favorite child yet? Do we know? So I'm starting low down here. The only annoying thing about pomades is they're very sensitive to air. And what I mean by that is you can't have the jar open and leave it there for the day, because when you come back, it'll be quite dried up. You can get a solution called Duraline from Inglot, but you don't want to make it too oily because then the product doesn't stay very well. It's kind of like a little bit of a fine line. So again, I'm going to sketch very lightly up into the arch of that brow and draw it down. If you're kind of wondering, particularly in these times when we can't have our brows done, some of us will always kind of get a line there with products that we don't like and it looks a bit obvious. You can obviously brush through it with your spoolie, or you can actually push up with your finger and the kind of heat of your hand moves it through it. Be as stubborn as you need to be sure that you move the excess product out of the brow. And if you're kind of wondering how far down to bring it, how close in to start, you can actually measure your brows. If you put a fine pencil, a piece of string, whatever you have, at the tip of the nostril and you draw it up, that's generally your guide as to when to start your brows. So I'm not doing too bad. If you pop it at the edge of the nose and wing it back, that's generally telling you when to finish it. You don't have to abide by it, but sometimes it's nice if you're kind of like, I'm just shooting the breeze here going, okay, where will I stop? How will I fit it in? So for those of us, this might be a new product. It could be one that you already use. Does anybody use a pomade already? Or are we more pencils, waxes, shadows? I know we said last week we probably found shadow the easiest. But does anybody actually use a pomade like this? I'm just going to pull my hair back so I'm not fussing with it. The difference brows make. Jesus. And a little tip with mascara gels. Oh, Alana. Oh, is that always using a gel, Alana? Miriam hasn't tried it yet. Emer does. It's funny. I would definitely say, like, and if you don't have the tools, don't worry. But if you do, I would challenge yourself to try different ones, because you could have a type of product that you're like, oh my God, this is amazing, or you could find it really difficult. Faye is asking, sorry, I'm a newbie. Don't worry. Hello. Is the Hydrate and Hold for base? So Hydrate and Hold is like your setting spray. So you can spray it before makeup to hydrate your skin. You can spray it after makeup to help give it like a nice seal. And you can spray it throughout the day as like a boost of hydration. So that's why I think it was Aoife was saying it's on her desk when she's working from home, because the heating's on. You might have it in your car, in the fridge on holidays. So you can spray it as many times as you want, and then before and after makeup. Amy is saying, I used to use this and then I discovered the Gimme Brow. I know. And the Gimme Brow is great. To be honest, you could still wear the Gimme Brow with the gel if you wanted like really full brows, but you don't need it. Laura is saying either shadow or pencil. I would use shadow for everyday, pencil for more defined look when going out. Yeah. And I generally find there's that discrepancy between the gel that we've used this evening and a pencil. I find a lot of people maybe find pencils easier and would be their day-to-day, and then gel they might use for a special occasion or like a fancier look. Not everyone, and not that you have to, but some people do. So we're going to move on to our eye base. I am not going to use a primer this week. I'm going to show you that next week with our matte look. But I am going to use our Cover Up Concealer. So last week I probably just brushed the excess of our liquid Brighten Up onto the lid to get a bit of colour correction going. But when you're looking for shadow to last, our eyelids are naturally very oily. I'm sure we've all been there where, you know, you fire on a bit of shadow in the morning and then you go into the mirror and you have that gorgeous like semicircle of oil build up where all the shadow gathers and you're like, oh yeah, I'll just give that a little tap and off I go again. So that's because the lids are naturally oilier and greasier, as awful as it sounds. It's true. So you need something matte on them. So that's why I'm going to use our Cover Up Concealer, because it's an oil-free, soft matte finish. So it's a little bit more mattifying than our Brighten Up. And I'm going to pop that on as a base for the shadow. So the reason why bases for eyeshadows are great is they colour correct your lid. So you can see how I've got kind of like veins and all sorts of colours popping out. And when I pop this on it, it just neutralises the lid. So it's going to colour correct it for you. You can still use your liquid concealer or your foundation, but it just won't be that great at holding the eyeshadow for yourself. So if you're looking to keep your eyeshadow on for the day, and typically when you're wearing a look like this, you know, it could be an occasion, we want to make sure that we have longevity there. So I'm putting that all over the eye. You can go extra with that and you can set it with a bit of light powder, like a bit of translucent powder if you want. It's totally up to yourself, but I'm going to let that settle. So it's going to colour correct the lid, but it's also going to mattify it. So it means that it won't be as subject to getting oily, which means it'll hold on to the eyeshadow a bit better. And also, I find it's so much more beneficial having a good base on the eye because your shadows show up a bit better. So have you ever noticed if you fire on a shadow onto just your normal skin, you might not be getting the same impact of it? Whereas if you put it on top of a base, it just pops a lot better and probably blends a bit more seamlessly. So that's why I like to set my eyes first. Kathleen is saying that her eyebrows are tattooed, so she's limited in what she can use in the Benefit Brows. Yes, so is that. What's that tattooing called? What's that word? Fee brows. Is that what they are? Anna is saying she's scared of brows and I tend to pay little attention to them. I totally get that. People are terrified. Like I'd be doing bridesmaids or mothers of brides and they go into the mirror and they'd be like, I never really do my eyebrows. And you can tell the fear. But let me tell you, the softest definition you want, the slightest hint of a groom makes the biggest difference to the face. It just looks like you've paid them a little bit of attention that didn't cause you any hassle and it totally frames it. So I'd highly recommend starting with the gel that we've suggested. Where is one to show you? Where is my gel? Well, I'll show you this one because I can't see my Benefit. It's probably staring me in the face somewhere. But starting with a little mascara gel like that, just to brush up the hairs and tint them, will be your lifesaver. Hassle-free, done in 5 seconds. That particular one is the Rimmel Wonderful Brow. A little bit clumpy, but like for the price of it, you get going and it's grand. Okay, underneath the eyes, I'm going to show you colour correction this week. So I like to do my under eye concealer before I put my eyeshadow on, because I find the shadow blends on top of it. But before I do that, we'll do a bit of eye work. So if we think back to last week, right, if we focus on brushes, last week was very simple. We did a wash of our bronzer all over, and we had a small bit of shadow built into the upper lash line, and that was kind of it. Very simple. 2 different brushes involved. So this week, we're going to look at the size of our brushes a little bit differently. So, get my little options out for you. I'll actually show that in comparison. So when you look at the blender duo, okay, you've got this guy here, which is a little bit fluffier, a little bit bigger, and you've got this guy here, which is a little bit more tapered. The size of your brush is everything on your eye shape. If you go in with a huge brush size and a really, really dark color, it's going to go everywhere. You're not going to be able to control it. So typically speaking, the smaller the brush, no, the darker the shadow, the smaller the brush. And that's so you can get precision. So i.e., if I'm going to apply black eyeshadow all over my eye, I'm definitely going to prioritize using this size brush rather than this size brush because it looked like I landed down a chimney. So really, really pay attention. And what some people do, so our brushes are actually labeled like defining duo, blending duo, the blender, the definer. But you can go the extra step and actually label them and say bronzer, dark shadow, shimmer shadow, whatever it is that helps you to understand what goes with what. Because when you know your brushes and you know the consistencies, everything outside is so much easier. Anna is saying, what shade of the cover-up have you to match foundation for your lids? So the shade that I use there is 2.5. It's a paler shade. I wouldn't use it to match my foundation because my foundation would be darker because I've got tan on, but I like 2.5 in terms of my natural skin tone. So I'd say, to be honest, 2.0, 2.5 would be the kind of classic shades for your eyelid correction on a fairer skin, and then darker for deeper. I want to show you the different consistencies. Yes. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about eyeshadow consistency here. Just because it's really important to understand. Loads of us have loads of eye palettes, and eye palettes are great, but sometimes you're missing a shimmer, sometimes you're missing a matte, and then it completes the whole look. So if I take Sculpt to the side and I look at this MAC palette, okay, I'm going to swatch this one and I'm going to swatch this one. So on my hand, when I move that, this guy here is my shimmer. This guy here is my matte. And what makes it matte is it's got no shine, no glitter, no sheen to it. It's a dry texture of a shadow. Whereas this one here has like a glint and you think, oh, that's lovely and sparkly and it's great. And shimmers are great, but you absolutely need your matte for definition. And the reason why I draw attention to this is a lot of the time in our palettes, you might have a darker looking kind of bronze color and you think, oh yeah, that'll be lovely for a smoky eye now, but it's full of shimmer. And shimmer is not bad, but you will never get the same definition from a shimmer as you would from a matte. The exact same way with our bronzer, we tend to go for matte rather than like a sparkly bronzer because you just look like you have a lot of sparkle on your face instead of definition. And the exact same goes on the eyes. For any kind of definition at the corners, into your crease as like a liner, if you go for a matte, you'll have a stronger contoured effect. So that's step one. So what it might take is us going into our eye palettes and going, okay, what is what? So what's a shimmer, what's a matte? And then getting to know the colors, and then everything becomes so much easier. So like I said, we're going to build on last week. So we're going to take it nice and easy, right? So if I focus on my full face edit, this is the In Bloom palette. And I'm taking my fluffier end, so the same brush as last week, in a similar kind of bronzer, and I'm going to blend this up into my lid. So with this color, we very much washed this on last week again. You don't have to use a bronzer if you have like a medium tone matte. Go for it. I'm just keeping it simple to do like building blocks. You'll notice that when I hit the eye, I'm blending straight away. So I'm moving it back and forth, shuffling it back and forth, but I'm leaving that gap underneath my eyebrow. So I'm not bringing the shadow all the way up to the eyebrow because that would just look a little bit unblended, but I'm bringing it slightly higher than my brow bone. Now, if you are kind of like a hooded eye shape, maybe deep set, so say for example your skin kind of came down there and overlapped slightly and you're conscious, oh, I don't know if I see all my lid space. You need to keep the eye open. Regardless, you should keep your eye open so that you can see, but also so that you're bringing your shadow up to a level where you still see it with your eyes open instead of closed. So even if you want to be looking down into your palette or looking forward, but you don't want to go too high. So regardless if you're hooded or deep set, this is definitely one of the steps that you're going to bring up a little bit higher to make sure that you see it. It's your medium color, it's not too overpowering, and it's bringing it all together. So leaving that natural lighter space under the brow, which is my actual skin color, with the concealer on top. So it's going to look lighter anyway versus the bronzer. So that's step one. So that's essentially what we did last week. The biggest thing that I would see with this step is people use a color that's too dark, so it ends up becoming a massive smoky eye and they lose their blending. Or we're divils for starting and staying at the corner of the eye. So you end up getting what I call a blob, the blob of eyeshadow with nothing here. So when you hit the eye, I would be moving straight away in to get that nice kind of blending back and forth the whole way in. Don't worry if it falls onto your lid. I'm going to put a bit of shimmer there. It's not going to be the end of the world. It's just a medium color. Some people like to put it on their lids. Whatever you prefer, it doesn't really make a difference. So now I'm going to add a darker brown shadow into the corners. So last week we faked like a bit of a shadow liner about a third of the way across. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build this back and sketch upwards to create an outer edge. So I'm using my pencil brush. So again, I've downgraded in brush size. So important. I'm going to take my matte brown shadow. So that's why you'll notice in any full face edit that we have, there's always a matte, deeper shadow. And the reason for that is, like my rant already, you need it for definition. So if you want to fake an eyeliner, if you want to fake, not fake, but if you want to have an outer smoky shadow, you just can't do it properly, or it's the same effect without your matte. So I'm starting at my lower lash line. It's really, really important with this kind of color. You can go lighter with your color as well, or you can go darker and add a bit of black in, is that you control the blending. This is the most problematic step in a smoky eye if you don't get it right. So that's why I'm starting at my lower lash line and I'm building it back, but I'm taking my time with it. I'm not forcing it. I'm not shoving it in there. I'm bringing it back very lightly. And that bone there is my crease. So I'm bringing it slightly into that, but I'm not going behind it. So the problem is when you hit your eye and start blending up here, chances are you're going to go higher than what you want. Whereas if you start down at the lash line and you bring it back, you kind of get control of it quite easy. So the further in that you bring this color, the smokier you're going to go. So I generally say about the outer third. You can keep blending. You can add a bit more in at the end. This is not set in stone. And you can always go back in with your big fluffy blender that has your bronzer on it or your medium color if you want to merge the two together. So this guy here just applied it. Some of us will end up with like a bit of a streaky finish. So we need to involve a slightly bigger brush to kind of blend and make that look really seamless. So stick to your smaller brush and leave it at that, or just double over with your slightly bigger blending brush, not as big as your bronzer one now, to blend that back and forward. Just going to look into the mirror to be sure that I'm on track. Okay. Again, if you are hooded or deep set and you find that this corner here isn't as much on show with your eyes open, you just bring it back as far as you want to. The main thing is you're going to get it into your lash line and you're going to really embed it into that lash line. If you are feeling brave, like I said, the more that you add of this color, the darker it's going to go. If you only like a very, very subtle definition, then just bring it back ever so slightly and leave it at that. You don't need to go wild with this. And the good thing is you can really, really control it. So you'll notice that I haven't applied any shimmer yet because I want this matte to do its work on its own first. And I'm kind of getting a little bit braver. And this is why I find when you don't do when you're not used to doing your eyes first, it can be really like a bit disconcerting when you have your big smoky eye on with no foundation because you're like, what on earth does this makeup look? And then all of a sudden it just falls together as you start to add in more. I'm just going to soften that crease, like so. Okay, so now you kind of have two parts of the shadow and you're like, okay, what else do we need to do? And we need to get our shimmer in. So a shimmer is, like I showed you, something that has like a glint or a bit of a shine in it. I'm going to use a slightly brighter gold. I'm going to take the highlight from Beauty Blocks, which I am absolutely obsessed with. I'm going to tap this on to my lid. Use your brush, use your finger, whatever you find you've got more control with. But you want to bring it right down to that lash line. So what a lot of us do by mistake is we'll apply our shimmer up here, and then there'll be a gap before it meets our eyelid. So when our eyes are open, you kind of see like your skin and then your shimmer floating up top. But you want to make sure that they merge and that you see it right away. What I'm doing there is I'm kind of sketching my finger back and forth, because one of the biggest difficulties that people have with this type of smoky eye is they find that when they apply their matte and then their shimmer, it's like a stop sign. Like matte finishes here, shimmer starts here, and they're like, it doesn't really look like it's supposed to be together. So you want to do is kind of etch that color back and forth, because you want to keep the matte, but you also want to look like they're a smoky eye together and they're meant to be on the eye together. So kind of giving that a little bit of an etch back and forward. You can also add more brown once you apply your shimmer. You know, if you think, geez, this is great, I want to keep going because I want to massively smoke out my eyes. So say if I was going back in there and I was kind of just sketching my brush back and forward, this has the brown on it, to kind of merge the two together, then you could bring it a little bit further over. So golds and browns are probably the most common eye combination of colors, and they suit all eye colors, which is why they are so popular. So if you have a champagne, a gold, if you love purples, that's fine. We're going to cover them in week 4, but I would try and stick to neutrals if you can, particularly if you're getting used to it, and they are definitely the most used shades of all. So that's our upper shadow for now. Does anybody have any questions on that? Our chat is quiet, so hopefully I'm not going too fast for anyone. And like I said, before I do my under eye shadow, I'm going to apply my under eye concealer first. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to show you the color corrector this week. So a color corrector is part of our notes, and it's the products that essentially fix correction of color on the face. So they're different to concealer. They're not there to add coverage. They're not a particularly heavy product. It is mainly just to color correct a pigmentation error or discoloration, like what a lot of us have underneath their eyes. So I don't really rate, like, not that I don't rate, but I don't really think you need color correctors in your makeup bag. I think they're more of a makeup artist product. But the one that I do rate is a peach color corrector or an orange color corrector if you've got deeper skin, if dark circles are your thing. So for some of us, it'll be spots on our chin, it'll be a large forehead, it'll be sparse brows, and for some of us, it's dark circles that we're just like, we wake up every morning, we're like, how do I fix this? So eye creams and all those magic potions aside, sometimes a little dab of a peach color corrector into the discoloration area, and then you apply your concealer on top of it to camouflage it in, makes the biggest difference. Because what you need in a discolored eye is a brightness. You do not need 3 layers of coverage, so you need a brightness. This particular one is by Vichy. We are actually launching our own sculpted one, which I am very excited about, because obviously it's something that I've taught about for years, because I really don't rate, like I said, all the color correctors. I don't think you need them, but I do think that this makes a huge difference. So that's a little bit gone on there. So you look a bit kind of wonky because you're like, okay, I've got a load of peach underneath my eyes. It doesn't have to be that strong, and you really don't need a lot of it. So a lot of people panic with this step because they go, oh, but I have to put concealer on top of that, and what if it's too heavy and it makes me look like I've got loads of wrinkles? All you're doing then is adding your concealer. So this is Brighten Up in shade Golden on top of it. And look at this. All of the outside of your eyeshadow is cleaned up in one step. That's my next bit of advice. Never be a perfectionist with the corners of your eyeshadow, because there's one swipe and it's all cleaned up for you. So don't be dilly-dallying with like 50 brushes to get it all perfect, because it'll be done in a minute. I'll add my shimmer back in there. So as you can see, the concealer goes on top really seamlessly. It totally color corrects and camouflages in the color corrector underneath. And you only need a tiny bit. You only need a tiny bit of our Brighten Up as well because it's really pigmented and spreads very easily because it's so fluid. So you can see all that clean up there, and I'm focusing in and around my tear duct. Miriam was saying that she got the L'Oreal Peach after my stories. Amazing. It is. Like, don't get me wrong, I certainly believe our Brighten Up concealer can do it. But what I love to teach people with colour correctors is it saves you using an extra layer of concealer unnecessarily because you need a brightness. You don't need a coverage. So it can make a huge difference. So do I think everyone needs to use a product like that every day? Absolutely not. But maybe on a special occasion, maybe if you have a period of a few late nights, or you're gone through a bit of sickness, or you're awake with your kids, or perhaps, like I said, dark circles is your thing, then it's there for you and it's invaluable when you get used to it. So what we're going to do now that our concealer is on is I'm going to continue that under eye definition. So again, last week we just did kind of like the outer third of the eye. You can stick to that. You know, if massive smoky eyes isn't your thing, not that they're massive smoky, but if a smokier eye isn't your thing, you can stay there. But what I'm going to do is take the slimmest end of our defining brush. So I'm getting the most narrow that I can, or use your angle brush, and I'm going to go underneath my lashes. The amount of people that I see going, the only way to describe it is going to war with their under eyelashes, trying to get shadow on, is hilarious. Your eyelashes are there to stay. They will always win, no matter how much you poke the eye out of yourself. They're not going anywhere. So make your life easy and go under your lashes and get it right in to that lash line. So I'm getting it as close as I can, and I'm bringing it the whole way across to the end of my lash line, basically. Again, it's a preference thing. The further in you bring it, the smokier it's going to go. Kind of is up to yourself. And on my smaller brush, I'm going to blend that out with a bit of bronzer. So again, you're not really going to look at that and say, oh, the bronzer is lovely underneath the eyes. But what you are going to do is look and say the shadow underneath the eye is nice and diffused. Because the last thing you want, especially when you're using a small brush for definition, is for it to look quite like harsh, like you just drew a quick line underneath the eyes and it's like really in your face. You want to make it all look very nice and diffused. So underneath the lash line, getting right into the lashes, like so. So tapping a little bit of matte eyeshadow and then blending out my bronzer. So you're basically blending out with whatever color it is that you used at the beginning. So in our case, it was a bronzer here. You could have a different matte eyeshadow, whatever it is. And this particular step is what I call a 360. So the 360 is for one reason, I'm sure you've already guessed, is because we're taking what's up here around the eye. So it's going the whole way around. So you start with the color that's closer to the lash line here, which is the brown. And then you follow with the color back here, which is your bronzer. That's all there is to it. And it just gives a nice flow to the eyes. So I'm going to leave my eyes there for now. I'm going to focus on getting my base on, and then I'm going to come back and add my liner and stuff. You can add your liner straight away. Absolutely fine too. Sometimes I like to leave it until my base is on to decide maybe how smoky I want to go. Because sometimes when your foundation stuff is on, you might say, oh, I'm actually feeling a bit brave. I might go for a bit more, or I might not. So base-wise, I have my hydration serum on, which is nicely absorbed. I'm now going to add Beauty Base Original. So this is the white tube that has more of a golden glow finish. So a little bit more obvious of a golden glow finish. Still has the extra boost of hydration with their hyaluronic acid. Still has a SPF 30. I'm going to apply that all over. And I do have my bronze base on, and I actually missed that area, look. Whoops. And I always wear medium, dark, and bronze base because you can always customize it to be as light as you want, depending on how many pumps you apply. So I just love a bit of colour. So that is our Beauty Base Original. So again, we used Pearl last week. Pearl has more of a subtle pearlescent finish, and the Original more of a golden sheen, which is a bit more obvious. Okay, shade-wise, I'm actually going to use one of our newest ones, and it's called Medium Beige, which is kind of like a reddy tan colour. And I'm using the matte finish this week. So we used Dewy last week. So like I was describing last week, the matte is really not all that matte. It's oil free, which is why we consider it matte, but it's also talc free. And talc is one of the key ingredients in something like Estee Lauder Double Wear or one of those kind of high power staying ones that cause a bit of creasing or a bit of dryness in the skin. So this is talc free. So you still get that radiance. So we do say matte is better if you have an oilier finish or if you prefer just more of a set finish. But at the same time, it's still very natural, still has a lot of life in it. So you probably still will need your powder, for example, if you get particularly oily. So I'm buffing and blending that all over the skin. I'm bringing it up to meet that under eye concealer, but I'm not doing a double layer. Has anybody cracked that habit yet? If you practice this week, if you're used to bringing your foundation up underneath the eyes, have you found that okay not to do? I always get the funniest messages from people being like, oh my God, before I realize the foundation's all the way up underneath my eyes and I can't help it. So the main difference between this kind of color and say medium plus that I usually wear, medium plus is more golden and this is kind of more of a warm brown. So a little bit more of a tan color. Oh, Amy's in. Amy is saying, yes, I've been really trying. It does make such a difference. Oh, I'm delighted to hear that. We had a student once that said to us in our course a few years ago, so funny. She came in and she worked in like a predominantly male office. I can't remember what she was doing. And she was like, guys, I have to tell you. So dramatic. That tip has been life-changing. And I was like, amazing. I was like, I'm so happy to hear that. I'm so happy I've changed lives. But she was really thrilled. So we were really thrilled. So even though we're keeping it kind of lightweight, and you can see that's the matte on there, but it still bounces off the skin so that it doesn't look really flat, which would be my pet hate when it comes to foundations. I'm going to set with a bit of powder. So we're not going for a full matte finish. We're going to do that next week. So each week we're going to do a different take on it. What I am going to do is tone down, I suppose, the uber dewiness of last week, and I'm going to set my T-zone. So a lot of us might have areas where we're more susceptible to oil. Typically it is the T-zone. You might by force of habit just kind of set all over very lightly, particularly when you're using a light powder like the Laura Mercier. It's very lightweight, so you can pop it over and you won't ruin your dewiness. It'll just soak up the oils. This, whenever you hear the word translucent, it means that it's invisible. So when it goes on your skin, it absorbs in. You don't really see a color, so it's fine if you have like a daytime foundation and a nighttime foundation. It's a really easy one. If you are extremely oily, like if you know within 2 or 3 hours I need to get my oil wipes out, this probably isn't strong enough for you. You probably need a stronger oil absorption of a powder on top. Or perhaps you need to look at your skincare as well. Anna's saying, yes, it's very hard not to bring it all the way up with force of habit. I know. And I see it even when I'm face-to-face with people in the academy and I'm like, but I just told you to do that. They're like, oh God, I forgot. Sorry. Anyway, it's all good. So that is medium beige 4.75. And next, we're going to do a bit of contour with Beauty Blocks in shade medium. So I am wearing medium. I kind of wear medium the most. So it's the same shadow we have on the gold there. And it's for kind of like if you wear a tan or if you have a slightly deeper skin tone. Light then would be those with a lighter complexion or a fairer foundation on. Maria was asking what I think about beauty blenders. I don't think a whole pile of them. I think I've seen people use them. I think it looks cool. I think their makeup finish looks great. I have always been about brushes or fingers. So I've actually never used a beauty blender fully, like in terms of my makeup routine. But in saying that, I think they're lovely to use. And I've seen really lovely results from people who do use them. So this week I'm going for our double-ended sculpting brush. Probably our most popular brush, and it's been with us since we launched. Taken a few different formats in terms of shades on, but essentially the brush has stayed the same. And the reason I'm going to do that is because it fits into your cheekbone. So we're going to go for a slightly more precise contour tonight. We're going to follow the exact same steps. So if you made a good headway from last week, amazing. You've got a bit more to go. Off we go again. We're going to do the same thing. Mira was saying, I've always been too scared to use them. I always use fingers until I got brushes. Yeah, I just think brushes are easy for me personally. So tapping that into the bronzer, giving my excess a go off. Rub it onto your hand, onto a tissue, whatever you want. Do not go in with loads and loads of product in your brush because you'll regret it. So I'm going to start back where the bone meets the ear and finish up at the bone. Very much like we did last week. Taking it really soft, nice and tight. Don't be going mad on your cheek. I'm bringing it up to meet the cheekbone. So again, you want to get that contour where you can actually see it when you're looking ahead, but it doesn't look too obvious. I'm going to go into my hairline and drag that little bit of excess in towards the forehead. So I'm not actually going the whole way across the forehead. The whole idea is that you shade just the sides to create a bit of dimension. I'm going to add a little bit more here and then just take the excess down the sides of my nose. So it's really important, and we're going to do kind of a stronger cream contour next week, but you're never shading the entire side of your nose. That would just create like an entire brown block. You're just getting the very tip and the edge and dusting off the tip of the nose there. Like so. How are we finding that contour? Are we overthinking it now that I suppose we're being shown tips? Or are we like, oh, that makes a difference going a bit higher? Are we surprised by how high we're going? Anybody still terrified? Miriam's saying yes very excitedly. What are you yesing to? Is it higher than what you were doing? Because I find that is one of the main things you'd hear back from people is like, oh my God, I didn't know to bring it that high. And now I see such a difference. Okay, Miriam is overthinking it. And that happens a lot because it's something that you take for granted that you've just done. You know, you apply your bronze, you apply your darker contour powder, whatever it is that you're using, and you do it. Whereas when you're doing a course then where it's being shown, you know, bring it up to this level and do this, people all of a sudden are like, oh God, where do I even start? So make it easy on yourself. Feel out your bone first, so I know exactly where it is and the height of it. Start here and blend up. So don't down there. You don't want to end up down here. You want to end up here so your face is lifted with it. Amy's saying, I normally use today's brush and tried the bigger brush last week and was nearly more scared doing them with the smaller brush. But that's fine. Stick to your smaller brush. The bigger brush is only for those, I suppose, who maybe don't have a smaller brush. So are used to it. So you're trying to get them in the way of thinking of using their brush cleverly in terms of only on the side of it. But stick with your smaller brush. I use my smaller brush most days. Miriam was saying, I don't think I even knew I had that bone. Of course you do. That's one of some of people's funniest messages after Christmas. They're like, no, Amy, I don't have a cheekbone. I'm like, of course you have a cheekbone. We all have a cheekbone. So I'm going to go for some cream highlight next. We obviously used this last week on its own. So we're going to use it as a building block this week. So this is the champagne cream inside Beauty Blocks in medium. So every Beauty Blocks is built on the same four framework of our powder bronzer, cream highlight, powder highlight, and powder blusher, but they have four like different shades of them in them. So it just depends what color combination you get. Faye is saying that I was the same, I couldn't really see it. And it's funny, this is one of the biggest things that we would hear people say. When they kind of become conscious of placement or they're conscious of how much bronzer they're using and they ease up in the amount of product, they're like, I don't know if I can see it anymore. And you definitely can. And if you're someone who's maybe struggling to know if you can see it or not, I would take a picture of yourself in natural light and look back in the picture. You can always add a bit more product if you want, but sometimes you run the risk of being like, I can't see it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's all I can see. But the biggest thing to do there is, like I did earlier, is you go back in, wipe off your excess each time, and you add a little bit more and a little bit more, and you stick to the same, I suppose, placement and soft blending. So don't hammer in and go really fast. You're just taking it easy, nicely buffing it back and forth. And like I mentioned, you always have a chance to kind of clean up with your foundation brush if you really need to. You don't want to create any kind of blotchiness anywhere, but you always have a get out of jail free card. So this week, we are introducing our powder highlight. So we already have this on the face under eyeshadow, but I'm now going to add a powder highlight on top. So powder highlight for some will be their preference. For some will be like their kind of nighttime look, but it instantly adds a stronger, woohoo, I'm here and I'm glowy to the skin. So you'll see that I'm adding this on top of the cream. You can do cream or powder, or you can do both. But if you're going to do both, I would suggest to do cream first, like I have done, and then let that be the kind of primer for your powder on top, and it'll pop even more. So some people view cream as their daytime. Some people view powder as their nighttime. It's totally down to preference, whatever you prefer. If you're conscious of fine lines, like myself around here, you're always bringing your highlight just underneath them. You're not going on the fine lines. So you're not looking to make anybody zone into an area that you're not overly mad about. And now I'm going to add blush. So this week we're going to use powder. This is the powder in Beauty Blocks. And I'm going to pop this into the apples of my cheeks. So we used cream last week. So this is kind of like a peachy pink. Again, it's the same one from Beauty Blocks Medium. And this is going to work nicely with our system. So we kind of have a gold and brown on the eye, peach and pink on the cheek. I'm going to add a pinky lip. And again, you keep adding until you're happy with your level of blusher without being Sally and also without having any colour injection whatsoever. So eyes are looking a little bit more normal now that our face is on. So our face has a bit of structure. Our eyes have a bit of structure. You can see how it's kind of like a level up from last week in terms of even the layers of powder on the skin and the coverage and the smokiness on the eyes. So we're now going to add a little bit of an extra zhuzh to the eyes. So we did a shadow liner last week. We just kind of placed it into that corner. One of my favorite things to do. So easy, so simple. Good angle brush, good bit of shadow, and you're happy and on your way. And this week, we're going to add a kohl pencil. So we're layering up to that kind of flick, which we're all so excited to get to, I'm sure. So what I'm going to do is, very lightly, I'm going to push my eye, and I'm going to place this into my lash line. Now, one of the biggest things to be mindful of, when you're playing with a pencil or a shadow, it does not mean that you have free reign to be like, woohoo, I'm just going to apply it everywhere and not care. You want to be sure that you still get a nice thin line, and you get it into your lash line. So you're literally painting your lash line if you have to. And you want to be thinner in here versus out there. So I just kind of messily applied that into my eye. Happy days, there we go. And now I'm going to take my angle brush. So the same brush that I did my eyebrows with. Where's that gone? Okay, I can't find that. So I'm going to use my little defining duo brush. Whatever brush you have that's thin and narrow. And I'm going to blend back and forth. So you don't have to do this, but what it does do is it smudges and smokes out that pencil. So it gives it more of like an effortless effect rather than a very strict, whoa, I'm wearing liner. And you can always pull a little bit out at the side of the eye if you want to. So you're kind of half faking a bit of a flick. You could also just leave the pencil on its own and let it do its job. Or you can apply it and actually smudge it out with your finger. But the thing by using your finger is you're not really controlling the size of it. So it ends up being a little bit more kind of smudgier and smokier. Not a bad thing, just a different kind of effortless look. The pencil that I'm using here is the Charlotte Tilbury Bedroom Black. So I think the biggest thing when it comes to pencils, like I have a Bourjois one there, the Charlotte Tilbury one there. You want to make sure that it's smudgeable. So if you want to move and make this look nice and natural, you want to make sure that it's soft enough that it applies and stays, but that it moves into a shape that you want it to. Otherwise, you like cut the eye off yourself trying to get it to work and get it to move around your lash line. The other thing I'd say is if you use a very, very kind of cheaper brand for black eyeliner, it's absolutely fine. I'm sure it'll do the trick. But sometimes they come out a little bit blue. So it's kind of like that blue black, and that wrecks my head. I'm like, give me a black, please, because I've asked for a black. That's the only thing you might notice. So I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to do thinner, outer to thicker. I'm not creating a flick this week. We're going to leave it just as a bit of liner at the end of the eye. And that is a easy way, hopefully, to create a bit of definition at the lash line without having anything massively stressful in terms of having to create a flick at the edge. So I'm just going to go back in and add a dab of the dark brown eyeshadow into the corner because my fingers were there. Okay. Do any of us already do pencil liner? Are we fans of that already? So like I said, that was the Charlotte Tilbury one. I also have the Bourjois Kohl and Contour. I do find this a little bit on the blue-black side when you blend it out. It's not massively jet black. I like the MAC Feline pencils as well. Marc Jacobs do lovely kind of gel-like pencils. So there's loads of options out there. So like I said, get one that suits you, that lasts on the eye, that won't transfer, but also that will smudge for you. One thing I will say though about transferring of pencils, so a lot of people say, oh, it ends up here or I get it down there. That can also be down to your lack of setting on the eye. So like you need to have your concealer like we did, or your eye primer, or a bit of powder underneath here, because sometimes it's actually just oils. It's actually not the pencil or the product itself. Anna is saying, sometimes I feel with pencils that I spend ages trying to get them on the eye and I still see nothing on them. Not sure if it's because of the quality or I'm not pressing it hard enough. I would definitely say that's down to the quality of the pencil. So you should basically, as you apply it, even on your hand, you should get a really fluid line of product. So say this in here, which even needs to be sharpened. When you apply it, it's like a gel. It's like super black, super pigmented. So even if you're really kind of light-handed with it, then that's absolutely fine, but you should definitely see it. And I would put that down to the quality of it. Carol is saying, I like using pencils. I've never attempted to flick though. Oh, Carol, next week we're going to get you on that flick buzz. And again, when some people try it, they're like, oh, I love it. Or they're like, oh no, it's not for me. And that's fine. Each of their own. But I think you may as well try it, particularly on this time when you're like, you're uploading to us in private on a makeup course. Why not give it a go? And you're in your pajamas probably at home. So that's grand. I'm going to add a small bit of the Rimmel Brow This Way, just very, very lightly into my brows. Now that like my eyes are a little bit smokier, I'm like, okay, we can up the ante very softly. Just give them an extra bit of grooming. Emer's saying, I use pencil along the lash line and do my flick with liquid liner. Yeah, lovely. So you're kind of tracing your steps out first and then adding a flick, which is something that we'll talk about next week. But we're not finished with pencils just yet. So I have two different options here. And I'm going to show you the difference that a pencil on your waterline makes. So it's one of the quickest ways. So say if you were getting married in the morning. I don't know, maybe some of us are, some of us aren't. One of the quickest ways to change up your makeup look is a pencil on the waterline. So say if I have a bride who usually loves a smoky eye and she's kind of thinking, I don't know if I want to wear it to church. So I'm thinking, well, I put my nude eyeliner on my waterline. And then what am I going to do later? Because I kind of want to have that jazzy feel that like I've got my smokier eye on for after the dinner. So I'm like, take your colour pencil in black or brown, lash it into your waterline later on, and it instantly ups the ante. Along with, say, going from a nude to a red lipstick, for example. It changes everything. So I'm going to show you the two different layers. So the first one is a nude pencil. This is by Charlotte Tilbury, and it's her Eye Cheat. That one's dried out. They kind of wreck my head that they dry out so early. Do you know that? Anyway, I do really like the colour of it though. So do I have a pencil here? Sharpener, that is, to see if I can do that. Okay, I'll just cut the eye off myself. So in here, woo, no, can't. Way too sharp for my eye. I'd actually lose my eyesight. I do have a pencil sharpener. Just bear with me. Imagine I took my eye out. Jesus. Jesus. Ah, come on. Where will I find one? Like, I only have about 50 million things in front of me. Oh, Miriam is saying her Charlotte Tilbury one's always breaks too. Yeah, it's so annoying, isn't it? But I do think the quality of the pencil itself is very good, and I do really like the colour. So while we're waiting to kind of expose an area of this, a nude is basically to open the eyes. So brightens and opens the eye. Naturally, our waterline is quite red. So this just kind of wakes it up and opens it. So you can see the difference there. Some people find it a little bit strange if you're not used to it. I personally prefer a nude over a white. I find a nude a bit softer. White can be a little bit vampire-y. And on my other eye, I'm going to show you a brown eyeliner. And this is by MAC, and it's called Teddy. So I always say your nude is like bigger, brighter, hello, gorgeous eyes. Your brown is like your kind of soft, sultry, bit of smoke, but not too dramatic. And then your black is your strong, feline, smoky eye. So it's down to preference. Yes, you know, when you wear a darker liner in your waterline, it does kind of frame and close them. But what it's doing is it's framing it in a way to give it like that smokier edge. So it's kind of like a catch-22. Like, do you want big, bright eyes, or do you want that kind of lovely, sexy, sultry eye? So you can see the difference there. So that's the nude and that's the brown. What would our preference be? And whenever I apply a darker color like a nude or, sorry, a darker like a brown or a black into my waterline, I always just smoke up my shadow underneath a little bit more. because I just like to make it look like it's all kind of falling out of each other. God, I haven't worn this much makeup in ages. Carol likes the nude. It's funny. It's actually there's always a majority in a class, but it always differs by group to group. So we'll see now what the verdict is. And while we're voting on that, I'm going to show you the difference a little few lashes make. So I'm going to use our style called Light Lift. And they're like an edge lash, which are my absolute favorite. Or you could use like the Pennies individuals if you like them too. They're lovely. So I'm going to get my glue ready. Oh, we're all voting for nude. Well, Anna's kind of in between. So is Louise. But it's nice. And a lot of people will say I like both and it'll depend on my mood. And that's it. Do you know, like as in, the good thing about the nude is you can keep your eye open whilst having all your smokiness around it. So particularly good if you feel like you've got a smaller eye, your eye is tired. But the brown is a lovely, like really, really quick fix. And it like makes you look a little bit more dramatic than maybe what you're used to. So my glue is out on my pack. My lash is here. So with every lash, regardless if it's an edge or a strip, you want to pop it onto the eye first with no glue to see if it fits. So for some people, even though this is a corner lash, and this is called Light Lift, in case I said that too quickly, you still want to be sure that it measures up properly because you might have to trim some. And you can trim any lash any way that you want to be sure that it fits you properly. Anna is asking, what do you use to sharpen your pencils? Do you buy the same brand sharpener as the brand? So sorry, I said that incorrectly. Do you buy the eye pencil sharpener by the same brand as the eyeliner, basically? No, I sometimes just use basic sharpeners. I wouldn't be that pedantic about it. Some people love tools from certain brands, but I just think it's grand. Once it works, it's grand. If you have a very chubby pencil with a very soft pencil inside it, that can be problematic because it kind of catches in the sharpener a bit. But otherwise, it's grand. So I'm applying my glue onto my lash and I'm giving it a shake. The reason why you want to shake your lash with your glue is because you want it to be exposed to air so that it gets tacky. And when it's tacky, it's sticky. So lashes can be a little bit challenging, but they can make the most instant fabulous difference to a look. So particularly with this kind of style, I always start off with side or half lashes on our first look because I think it's a gorgeous way to incorporate a bit of drama without feeling like you're suffering or like falling asleep underneath your eyelashes. So you want to make sure it's a nice lightweight band, okay? You want to look down into your mirror and you want to get it right into that lash line and you're going to keep it pressed in. So with our corner lash Light Lift, they kind of come into about halfway on your eye, unless you have a particularly long eyelash band, but they are a gradient lash. So it's longer to shorter. So you can see the difference that makes by giving a bit of fluffiness to the corner without kind of cancelling out inside here. That's why I love them. I love that they give the lift where it's needed, but it's not a really heavy lash. And now, in fairness, none of our 5 stars are very heavy because our brand is a little bit more, you know, kind of about that softer, natural look. And for some of us, we might be used to the heavy lashes and you might love them, and that's absolutely perfect. Once you can apply them and they last on you, go for it. You know, some of us love our more dramatic lashes, and if it makes you feel like you, then you should do it. Eva saying she keeps changing her mind between the nude and the brown. I know. So I'm going to look to the side there so you can see the curl on that. And again, and also you can reuse these like you can with most strip lashes. Take them off carefully at night and use them again. Reapply your glue. So I'm looking back down into my palette. I've given that a shake. Got glue in this finger now, so it's going to stick to the eyelash. Some people prefer to use tweezers. I genuinely find them more difficult. So you'll always see me use my fingers. But if you've learned with tweezers and you've mastered it that way, then absolutely stick with them. So I'm keeping the edges a little bit pressed in. Sorry, Aoife's saying she's up to 90 even thinking about lashes. Oh, it's so funny. I know. I always find lashes and flicks are the thing that gets people. So let me reassure you, our lashes are extremely lightweight. So they're not very difficult to get on. And the smaller the lash that you use, typically the easier people find it. Not always, but sometimes. So I'd give them a go if you have them lying around and you want to try them. Because honestly, when you're like able to do them yourself, 1 or 2 at the edges or a little corner lash like this makes such a difference, and it's like no hassle when you get used to it. But I definitely think looking down into a palette makes a big difference. Keep it pressed in, go for a lightweight lash so you're not suffering underneath them or feeling like you're drowning with the weight of it. And I'm just going to add a little bit more black pencil on top of that. I love that though. I'm up to 90 already. It's so funny. So I'm just adding a small bit of black over this glue there. So we have glue inside each pack if you buy sculpted lashes. The glue is latex free. Just because we found from stats that people were very conscious of latex. I think I kind of prefer latex sometimes for a sticking glue, but the latex free is a bit softer and it's non-carcinogenic. Kathleen is saying, never used eyelashes as I have sensitive eyes, but they look good. So it'd be interesting to see. It could be like the glue that you're maybe sensitive to, or it could be other eye products. It might not necessarily be the lashes themselves, but they do make a lovely difference for the right occasion for sure. And for lips, I showed you nude last week. I'm going to show you naked this week. We launched our undressed lip duo collection yesterday evening. And naked is for sure the best seller so far. So I'm going to add, before we do mascara, our pinky lip balm to kind of marry the look together. Again, you could go kind of stronger with your lip here if you wanted to. Like the smoky eye is on, but it's not overwhelmingly strong. But I'm just going to add this neutral pink together. Oh, Amy ordered all 3, but very excited about naked. Yeah, naked is probably my favorite in terms of like the one that I would wear the most. Like I love all 3 for different reasons, but I probably wear naked the most. So I'm going to start my liner. So in general, liner tips. Some of us are very scared of lip liner. And I think you haven't been born yet if you haven't tried lip liner. I love it because you can make it really natural. Particularly when you use a liner like this, it's not built in a wooden pencil, so it's not really harsh on the lip. It's nice and creamy. So if you're scared of that lip liner look, obviously I'm going to mix lipstick into it, but say that already freaks you out. Fill in the lip a bit. So sketch it out and move it around so it's not as liner heavy. It also will help to keep your lip on for longer. So what I'm doing up here is I'm kind of curling around the Cupid's bow to soften that shape and up here. So we're going to go into more detail on like maximizing your lip shape next week. But what I am going to show you is the importance of cleaning up your lip. So I kind of have like a Chinesey hat top lip. So I like to kind of round it to soften it. Some of us might love overshadowing our lips and some of us might hate it. So twist my lip liner back down and take my lipstick. And like with any lip combo, right? We obviously have chosen them for you on this one. And with these, we made the lip lines a bit deeper because it's like, I think, one of the best ways to wear a nude lip. But if you apply more of your darker liner, it's going to be a deeper lip. If you apply more of your lighter lipstick, it's going to be a lighter lip. So you can kind of play with any 2 that you're using in the world, be it a lip duo or not, to kind of create your own style. For me, I love lip liner. So I generally give this a little bit more. But I could have gone way more on the lipstick if I wanted to lighten it. Anna is asking, do I moisturize my lips with anything beforehand? So our lip duos are very creamy. I did have a lip balm on at the start just for the sake of giving my skin a bit of something before coming on. But unless you're wearing like a matte, you might not find that you have to. In this season, lips can be far drier, so you might need a lip balm, and by all means go for it. But in terms of, say, before something like a lip duo, because they're quite creamy, I don't think you need it unless you want it. But it is a nice idea if you're prepping your lips the night before, maybe your red lip statement look, or your wedding day, or something like that where you want your lips to be extra supple, then sleep with your lip balm on the night before and give them like a light bit of exfoliation with maybe a toothbrush, very gently, or a lip scrub if you feel like you have to get a bit of excess layers off. So that is our naked. And I'm going to apply a little bit of mascara now with this one here. This is Maybelline Great Lash. So I always include this as like a budget buy. Don't know if I love it, to be honest. I feel like it was a little bit overrated. What I am going to do is apply this to my bottom lashes first. And a little tip that I always do, and I know I touched on it last week, is I run my ring finger very lightly over the ends of my lashes. So I'm not looking to lift off any mascara. I'm not looking to dramatically change it, but I am looking to capture the little bit of wet bits at the end of my lashes that could fall and cause panda eyes. So in terms of my upper lashes, I'm going to apply a little bit more into my false lash free end, so in here, and then just a very small bit into where the false lash is on. I personally don't like putting a lot of mascara on my false eyelashes. I think you get less re-wears out of them. And for me, I wear the lashes to get that lovely kind of wispy feel. And if you layer mascara on that, you're losing it. You're creating like a clumpy lash like it would if it was your natural lash. So I like to let them do their thing. I'll put a light layer to kind of blend in fair lashes if you have fair lashes like myself, and maybe kind of glue them together. But I let the lash be wispy on its own. And question about should you do mascara before or after lashes? Like I just did there, I would do it after the lashes are on. There's no right or wrong. It's just a preference. For me, I find when you put mascara on, it makes the lashes quite stiff and curly, which is great because it means the mascara is doing its job. But when you're trying to put a false lash on that, if you have a very naturally curly client, or maybe you have naturally curly lashes yourself, the false lash sits like that at an angle and doesn't settle. So I prefer to do lashes first and then apply a light bit of mascara after, because you don't need a lot of mascara. That's the whole reason that you're applying your lashes on. But again, if you have learned in a way where you do your mascara first and you like that, go for it. Some people like to have a light layer on to maybe see the lashes more, and that's perfect. I just personally prefer to do it after. And it's giving myself a little bit more lipstick. Little bit more lipstick. And I suppose, it wouldn't be like me if I didn't give myself a little bit more blusher. So how do we find that look? Have we done something kind of similar to this on ourselves already, maybe for occasions? Are we feeling kind of soft and smoky? Is this like way too dramatic for anyone? Way scary for anyone? Way too timid for anyone? How are we feeling? I'm feeling uber glamorous. Because this is my first course back, I haven't really been wearing like proper looks like this. Jesus, I feel like I could go to a disco. Off I go. Yeah, Miriam saying I'll look fab for a Monday on the couch, as will I. So this is what we call our soft smoky eye, like I said at the start. It's definitely along the lines of some of the most requested looks for occasions, be it weddings or christenings or birthdays. Next week, we're going to do a statement lip. So we're going to change it up entirely. And it's nice, even if you're someone who doesn't love a smoky eye or doesn't wear a red lip, it's nice to try it out, because that's when you get to know places in your face and techniques that maybe you haven't tried before that could become totally part of your routine after. So we're going to go for flick liners, lashes, cream contour, and a red lip next week. So our couch will be absolutely loving us. Robin is saying, love it, but I'm terrified to try put it off myself. You'll be grand. Oh my God, you'll be well able. And bear in mind, like, I've sat here for like an hour and a bit talking to you about the tips. Obviously, when you're doing it yourself, you might spend longer if you are treating yourself at the moment, not rushing off to anything. But you won't take as long as maybe I have, because I'm explaining it to you. So it's all very manageable. And even if you only get like a few extra bits done from the look last week, that's brilliant. You're still getting loads from. Mairead is asking, my eyes are very hooded. Any tips for people with very little visible eyelids? Yes. So when I was doing the shadow, I kind of went back to the different eye shapes as I was doing it. The main thing is to keep your eye open. If your eye comes down here, don't be worried about getting that brown shadow all the way back, because you're not really going to see it. So focus at the lash line and bring it back to as much as you can. So you need to keep your eye open, but do keep the medium color here up nice and high. And lashes are amazing on hooded eyes, particularly ones like this that just focus on the outer edge, unfortunately, if you don't want to apply lashes. Eve is saying, love it. You look amazing. Oh, thank you. Have the fear to try the liner and lashes, but I'm excited too. Exactly. And sure, worst case scenario, you take it all off in your dressing gown and you go again. Grand. But this is kind of a nice stepping stone before our flick liner next week. So why not try it? And again, if you find it easier putting your shadow liner on first, you can do that. So copy what we did last week and trace over with your kohl pencil. The main thing is keep your kohl pencil. So a pencil like this, keep the nib into the lash line. Don't come up at an angle like this and go too high. Keep it down to make sure you get the thinnest line you can, and then you can always build on it from there. And that's it. I'm going to go scrub this off now. No, I'm going to wait and have my dinner with my makeup on. Any tips to save us if the liner goes wrong? Of course I do. Now, depends where it goes wrong. One thing I actually wanted to show you, which I'm going to do quickly now, is a cleanup tip that applies to anything. So say with my lips, I'm going to go back to my Cover Up concealer and my flat concealer brush. And you can clean up around the lip shape to tidy it, particularly those who are nervous of lip liner, and we'll use that more next week. You can also do the same with the corner of your eye. If you want to like flick out your liner or draw it out and clean it up. Again, we're going to use that tip next week. It's one of my favorites. If your liner goes too thick actually on the eye, you can always go back to your shimmer eyeshadow and kind of place it down there to thin out the eyeliner. It won't look like the most flawless, but it definitely gets you out of a hole if you find that it went a little bit too thick and a little bit too wide in an area and it's closing your eyes. So you can kind of like pat your shimmer back on top to kind of cover out any area of the liner that you want, or apply your concealer into the side to clean it up. But you'll be grand. You won't need any tips. You'll be laughing. But like as always, we're in the WhatsApp group. Keep us entertained over the week. Send us your messages or your practices. If anybody wants to share their liner sins, please do. I'm going to put the product list into the group as usual. If you join me live, thank you so much for the chats and the questions. If you are watching it back, enjoy. Looking forward to seeing your soft, smoky eyes. And like I said, this is about doing the look for yourself. If you would never use black eyeliner, go for brown. If you only like purples, do it with purples. And if you don't like a very smoky eye, go for a lighter brown. You can mix it all depending on what you want it to be. So just follow the steps. But have a lovely week. I will see you all next Monday for our second week of a very short month. And I hope you all enjoy practicing. Bit of escapism, bit of crack. And I can't wait to see your liners. I'm only teasing. Okay, good night.